Welcome to the Arkansas Cattle Business Podcast, brought to you by the Arkansas Cattlemen's Association. Here, we dive into the heart of Arkansas's cattle industry, where legislation, education, advocacy, and development come together to support the hardworking cattle producers of the natural state. Whether you're in the pasture or on the road, this is your connection to the people, policies, and programs shaping the future of our industry. Hello and welcome to this episode of the Arkansas Cattle Business Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Michelle Buffkin Horton.
And I'm your co-host, Norley Townsend.
And we are excited to be here today with Chief Billy Black. So Billy, would you introduce yourself and tell the audience who you are and where you're from?
Absolutely. My name's Billy Black. I'm the Chief of Law Enforcement for the Arkansas Department of Agriculture. I live in Waldron, Arkansas, so a pretty good drive into Little Rock.
Every day? Pretty much every day? Pretty often?
Pretty close.
Yeah. Pretty often. And so a lot of people probably don't know that we even have a law enforcement arm within the Department of Agriculture. So can you give us just an overview of the program and the role your officers play?
Yeah, absolutely. So we started out with the Arkansas Forestry Commission as a forestry investigative team. So we did the standard stuff forestry officers do, stolen timber, wildland fire, dumping or logging equipment vandalism. So that's the stuff we started out with. In about 2017, Secretary of Agriculture Wes Ward approached me and stated that forestry falls under the Department of Agriculture, and I said, yes, sir, it does. And he said, I see y'all as an asset, and I think we want to expand your roles and make you law enforcement for all of the agriculture departments. So that's our role now. We do law enforcement for still the forestry division, the livestock and poultry division, natural resources division, and the plant industries division. So we cover it all. On top of that, of course, agriculture is the number one industry in the state of Arkansas. So our focus is on protecting those growers and farmers.
Yep. Yeah. So just one question, and then the rest is history. Y'all ended up
That's
here
right.
and serving all of agriculture, and we could not be more grateful at the Cattlemen's, because as you and Secretary Ward both saw and realized and worked towards, is agriculture is more than just forestry. Agriculture includes all sides of things, and all aspects, all industries within the ag industry have issues and have things that can be helped by your team. And so we're really grateful to be able to work with y'all and have y'all. We're excited to have you here and talk a little bit more about what you and what your team's working on and how it can help and affect and benefit our producers.
Yeah, so what are the typical responsibilities of an agricultural law enforcement officer in your team? Like, how is their job different from, say, a regular county sheriff's deputy or state trooper? And do they have a specialized background or anything?
Okay, so my agents are comprised of fully certified officers, so they're fully certified to do any law in the state. But we focus on agriculture, so that's what we were created for, and that's our goal. Not saying that we wouldn't cover other laws if we seen it in our presence, but our focus is on agriculture, protecting the producers and growers of the state. So a typical day, we may be looking at livestock theft, we may be looking at farm equipment theft, farm equipment vandalism. We still do, like I said, timber theft and the logging equipment theft. So, and the fires. That you asked about a specialized background. All my guys are arson investigators. So those wildland fires that they see burning out there on the mountain and stuff, my guys are trained to track those back to where they began at. So you got that, and I won't say it's specialized training. It's just part of the job. But things like a normal law enforcement officer wouldn't do is reading those livestock barn records, or the logging scale tickets that go across for the mills. So we know how to read those. That's something we do every day, and that's not something normal officers would do.
Yeah. I mean, you touched on the wildfires side, and this technically wasn't in the question. Sorry. But for people that maybe don't realize it, I mean, it feels like we're so far from wildfire season because it's been raining every single day, and we don't complain about rain. We're very grateful for it. But, I mean, back in March, we had how many wildfires happening in the state?
They were all over the state, and my guys are still playing catch up on those, trying to investigate some of those. So I don't have the numbers with me, but... Yeah. But there were...
I think it was somewhere around 1,200 fires happening at one time, is what Secretary Ward had said. Obviously, not an exact count, but somewhere around those numbers.
Yeah, it's a lot of fires. And that takes a lot of time to do, to track those back.
Yeah, and so you touched on it about you have a little bit, obviously y'all have a little bit more specialized training, or at least just a background and interest in agriculture, but you do work with other law enforcement agencies because collaboration is key. And so how does your team work with other agencies, whether that be a local county sheriff's or a state agency working on ag crimes?
So we work with all the federal, state, and local law enforcement officers. We work closely with all of them. Let's be honest, the sheriff's office, and you'll never hear me talk bad about the sheriff's office. That's where my career began at, and most of my guys, their career began there. But they don't have a lot of employees, and they have all kinds of crimes going on, so their plate is loaded. So we come in, and where they're working those murders and rapes and drugs, a lot of time property crime gets left to the wayside, that it's not that important. Well, to those people out there that's had their cattle stolen or their tractor stolen, it's important to them. So we kind of fill that void, and come in there and help the sheriff's offices with, kind of take some of their workload off, and we'll work those deemed less important cases. We'll take those and work those. So we're also part of what's called the Southeast Law Enforcement Task Force. So that's a collaboration amongst the 14 southern states. So that could be Oklahoma, Texas, all the way over to Florida, up to Virginia, West Virginia, across Kentucky, Tennessee. So all those southeastern states, we work closely with those guys. So, the agriculture is the largest industry in the state, but it's a small world. Farmers know each other around the state. Well, the law enforcement for agriculture is even smaller. So those other people that we have a conference with them every year. It's been a great partnership, and it's proved very fruitful for the state of Arkansas, because oftentimes a lot of this stuff goes across state lines. So we work closely with those states surrounding us.
Yeah, because state crime doesn't stop at a state line.
That's correct. That's correct.
It is very beneficial, so that way you could work with our bordering states for sure. That is good to know, and good for our producers to know, especially those that may live on a border county or have issues, that y'all are here, but you are working with our neighboring states too.
When we first started in 2018 is when we officially started working cattle cases. That western border between us and Oklahoma was like the Wild West over there. Cows were getting stolen going back and forth, but oftentimes once it crossed that state line, the investigation stopped. Well, we don't do that. My guys will be in Oklahoma all the time, as well as Oklahoma officers being over in Arkansas. So we accompany each other, and for a common goal of protecting producers of not only our state, but their state as well.
Yep. Yeah. And so we kind of alluded to it there, but how many people are on your team, but covering the entire state with a handful of officers, and even going across state lines and working with other states, covering the entire state with a handful of officers sounds challenging. How do y'all manage that workload?
It is definitely a challenge. So, including myself, we have 6 officers covering the state. So, to say they're busy is an understatement. They're on the road somewhere every day. But I've always said, my officers could often go other places and make more money than they do here, but they love what they do. And, protecting the producers and growers and ranchers and farmers of this state, it's like a calling, and they love doing it, and it truly is a blessing to them to be able to help people. So I've always said they're the hardest workers in the state that nobody knows about. And so our main goal is not to see how many people we can throw in jail. That does the farmers often no good if we do that. It's getting their property back, or getting the restitution in the form of money back for them. So we pride ourselves in doing that, and just like I say, make the victims of a crime, make them whole again.
Yeah, so kind of talking about that. So what are some common issues like cattle rustling and farm equipment theft? Like how big of a problem is that in Arkansas?
So it's a lot bigger than you realize, especially with cattle prices the way they are, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. We're getting more and more cattle theft across the state, and so it's very common right now for us to get calls on a daily basis, weekly definitely, but sometimes on a daily basis, of cattle going missing. Sometimes it may be they just may be misplaced. They're over in the neighbor's land. But oftentimes they're not. We're actually going to the barns. We're trying to track them down and find out where they're at. So oftentimes they go across state lines. And like I said before, we work with those states around us to find those cows. So we we got a great partnership with our neighbors, and I hope they see us the same way.
Yep. And along those lines, is when, obviously we kind of talked about the different sectors that y'all work in within the ag industry, but in practical terms, when should a farmer or rancher reach out to you, and how do they need to work with your team? Can you outline some of the steps that they need to do to follow and reach out to your team and figure out something happened?
What we ask farmers to do is instantly, as soon as they find out something's missing, whether their tractor's been stolen, their cattle's missing, whatever the crime may be, we ask them to, as soon as possible, call the local sheriff's office. Get that on report, and then notify us. But with so few officers in the state, there's no telling where we'll be at. So we can't respond to every call. So we ask them, call the sheriff's office, get them on report, get that original report, and then call us. Oftentimes the sheriff's office is going to call us because, again, the more our names are getting out there, the sheriff's office know the good we do and good my officers do. So they'll call us oftentimes. And but as soon as they know anything's missing, we want them to go ahead and call us.
And to follow up with that, are there any red flags that farmers, ranchers should watch out for that might indicate there's theft activities, or any tips or tricks or anything that we can help? Or does it come mostly as a surprise to victims?
So what we ask our farmers and ranchers to do is to be observant. Okay, if they see anything out of the ordinary, seeing a car around their place, it's coming back several days in a row, or they know who comes around their farms, and so be observant. One. And you ask if it could catch them by surprise every time. It's going to catch them by surprise because often most farmers and ranchers think it can't happen to me. Mm-hmm. It won't happen to me. Well, it can, and it does. So, so again, protect yourself, be observant. Criminals want the easiest path. They don't want to get caught either. So they're going to take it. If you give them an opportunity, they're going to take that opportunity. So don't give them that opportunity. Take that opportunity away from them. That's what we want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so can you actually share a success story that y'all have had that helped a farmer or a rancher?
So we've had several success stories through the state, and I'll give you an example of a large case we worked that we collaborated with several counties and in other states also. So there was a couple out of Texas. At the time we didn't know who they were, but I got a call from the sale barn up in Siloam Springs that they had they sold like 24 head of cattle, and somebody wrote a check for it. And when they tried to cash that check, of course, it bounced, So, I asked them to send me, I said, you get a copy of the driver's license? Absolutely, we did, a copy of the check. So they sent them both to me. They looked like legitimate stuff. They were forged, obviously, but they looked actually legitimate. And so that was Siloam Springs. The next day, I get a call from Ash Flat over in Sharp County, same thing. And I said, can you send me the information? So they did. It was the same people. Same people on video, same people, different names though. Mm-hmm. So I instantly contacted the law enforcement chiefs out of Texas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, and Tennessee, and up into Missouri, and I said, this is what's going on in Arkansas. Have you seen this in your state? And Texas instantly got back with me and said, do you have their picture? I said, yeah. So I sent it to him, and he said, we know who they are. I said, okay. He said, we arrested them 2 months ago for the same crime. So we knew who it was. So, and show even more collaboration between Texas, which has been absolutely great to us. I called Texas, Special Rangers for Texas Southwestern, and I said, could you pick them up? COVID was going on, so we wasn't allowed in the jail. So they picked him up, took him to jail. I interviewed him over the computer, got a confession from him, but while the Texas Special Rangers sat in there with them, So that's a great success story of showing the collaboration we have with other states. And so we got those, and the whole story about it is they bought from Benton County, they bought from Sharp County, they took them to 101 in Blackwell and sold them to collect the money, went back and paid their bondsman for bonding out in Texas for the same crime. So there's one of your success stories.
Interesting.
But I guess the best success story I can give you is simply the restitution we get back for our farmers every year, our farmers and ranchers. So last year, our last fiscal year, we got $1.2 million back for the farmers and ranchers. This year, we're not even through with the fiscal year yet. We still got a month and a half to go, and we've got $2.5 million back. And that's really with 5 officers because I'm admin. Mm-hmm. My guys are out there working, but $2.5 million, that's pretty good. That's money we don't see. That's money that goes right back to the victims.
Mm-hmm. And is that because of more knowledge and more people that realize that y'all exist? Or is there actually that much more crime, and cattle prices also obviously play into that probably a little bit?
So to answer your question is yes. So let's
All of the above.
let's be honest. When the TV show Yellowstone come out, I think people Googled, does Arkansas have livestock agents? And of course we popped up, and so that got us a little bit of attention. But partnerships like ours, y'all, I mean, how many times I get a call and they say the Cattlemen Association gave me your number, so I get that quite a bit. So that is that's a great partnership, and that's one of our other things that we can really brag about is the non-law enforcement partnerships we got. The Cattlemen Association being one of them, to give us a platform to tell our story, or y'all telling our story. As you know, I've been traveling around the state going to the Cattlemen Association. I was in Montgomery County this past Tuesday, and there's probably 50 or 60 people there. And my first question always is, how many of you knew there was an Arkansas Department of Agriculture law enforcement team? Yeah. Not a hand went up in the room. So you're giving us that platform to get our message out there. So that's been a great success story.
Yeah, we're happy to do that because I mean, obviously it's not necessarily that there's $1 million more in crime, that it's people are realizing that y'all are available and this resource is available to our producers, and so we're really grateful for that. And I mean, another success story, it's an open case, so you probably can't really tell us about it, but I know we had a member call from Northwest Arkansas say, hey, I think my cattle got stolen, I had a truck and trailer stolen, and we gave him the hotline number, and he called, and I ran into you at a meeting the next day, and you were like, yeah, we've already got it, like we've already found everything, like we're still working on it, but like we found the trailer, we found this. I was like, that was 24 hours, and that's something that in the past would have been pushed down the priority list for a local county sheriff's office, not because they don't think it's important, but because they don't have the manpower, they don't have the ability. And so I mean, that producer was incredibly impressed, and I believe now is going to tell all of his friends of like, hey, if you ever have an issue, like here's how to fix it. And so lots of great success stories. Are there any notable outcomes or developments from the program that you're proud of? Anything from improvements in response times to building better relationships with the community? We've already talked a little bit about that, but wanted to give you the opportunity.
Well, last year we hired another officer, which improved our response time. So, we went from 5 officers to 6 officers now. So that's not a great improvement, but it's a lot better than it was. We did take on the role this year, and I didn't mention it, but we took on the role of the foreign land ownership. So that's taken one of my officers a lot of his time. A lot of his time is with that. So other officers are coming over his area covering. So we got a great team. It's a team, but it's more like family. Every one of us. I got a great group of guys, and I'll put them up against anybody in the state on work ethic. I'm not out there. We're too far apart. I can't watch them every day go to work, but I see the results. Yeah. So that shows me they're out there working.
Yes, for sure.
So can you explain what the foreign land thing is?
So foreign land ownership is any ITAR country cannot own land in the state of Arkansas. So you're talking about your China, your Iran, North Korea. They're not allowed to own farmland, agricultural land in the state of Arkansas. So it's our job. We're tasked with finding that land, and if it is owned by a foreign adversary, then we turn it over to the Attorney General, and they I won't say prosecute, but they go after them to either A, sell that land, or B, that we will take that land from them. So we collaborate with the Attorney General's office on that. So
yeah, that's been a really big focus of this administration, for sure, here in Arkansas, of working to address that and protect agricultural land.
Well, we're seeing a lot of agricultural land getting taken over by solar farms or crypto mines, and that land is valuable land to our farmers, but it's also valuable to us as a consumer of their products, and the more land we lose from that, we're not self-reliant anymore. Yep. So
they're not making any more of it.
That's right. So it is a very important agenda item, and we take it seriously on looking for it.
Yep. And it's not necessarily all foreign ownership, as Billy mentioned. It is the adversary.
That's correct.
There's actually an outline of a list within the Constitution specifies here's who our adversaries are.
That's correct.
And so, given your experience, what practical tips or strategies would you recommend to our members to help protect their property and their livestock.
And it's going to sound strange, but I'm going to say it's mostly common sense.
Mhm.
And I grew up on a farm, and I'm going to say these things I'm going to tell you, I violated every one of them.
Yep.
So, lock your gates, count your cattle regularly, park your equipment out of view,
Yeah.
don't feed in your pens, don't build pens close to the road, never leave your keys and equipment. How many of us out there take our keys out of our tractors? Not many. Most people walk away, but it's common sense item. But again, it's that mentality that it'll never happen to me.
Mhm.
Well, again, those criminals, if it's easy, they're going to take it.
Mhm.
So don't give them that opportunity. And the biggest suggestion I give people now, and it's a cheap fix, and it's great for law enforcement, is those game cameras. Get you some game cameras. You get some that can send you pictures back to your phone. The battery's going to eat up a lot faster. But just a regular game camera, if you point it at your gate, you don't have to change those batteries for six months to a year. So, if you see who's going in and out of that gate all the time, that's a great start for law enforcement. You've got a picture of the vehicle coming in and out of there or whatever. So, don't put it out in the open, hide it. But game cameras are a great tool for you to protect yourself.
And it's a lot more affordable than
Absolutely.
security camera.
Yes, absolutely.
It's a good alternative. But I mean, I think about it. I grew up. My dad left our keys in our trucks every single time, and he'd say, "If anybody they come all the way out here to take it, they need it more than we do." And so I'm like, "That's not." We live in a very different world.
That's right.
Than I grew up in, than you grew up in, and people they'll come out and they'll take it, and so it's easy to forget, and it's easy to get comfortable. I think for a lot of producers of saying, "Well, I know our neighbors, I know who lives here." It's not usually your neighbors that are their problem.
That's right.
It's people that are coming in and making an issue for producers, and so I think the common sense reminders are always helpful because we get complacent, we get comfortable.
We do.
Yeah. And what about reporting suspicious activity? Would you rather folks call in something and turn out to be nothing, or wait until they have evidence?
Well, again, back to the normal thing. Look for anything out of the ordinary. If you feel like something's wrong, more than likely it is. Call that sheriff's office, ask for extra patrol. Tell them what you're seeing out there. And it may be there's a reason for somebody being out there. But if you got a suspicious activity, then absolutely, I'd make a call to somebody. Again, we're not patrolmen, so we don't have enough people that I can go out and keep an eye on your property. But that sheriff's office got deputies there all the time. They can patrol by, give an extra look at it. But again, we don't want to clog the system. Everybody don't need to call the sheriff's office and I need extra patrols,
right.
Because then nobody gets extra patrols, right? So, but if you feel like something's wrong, then don't ignore your gut feeling. Mm-hmm. It's my advice.
Yeah, and usually, I mean, that's their job. They're happy.
Absolutely.
Usually happy to do that, and so. For sure, I think a lot of times we just feel like we don't want to burden. Like, we don't want to be a burden. We don't want to be a bother. We don't want to ask for help. A lot of times, for farmers, we hate to ask for help. But it's much better than the alternative.
That's right.
And so, and I think along those lines is if, despite everything that they've done, that you've said that they should do, if they do fall victim to a crime, what steps should they take immediately? And what's the best first few things that they need to make sure that they do? We've talked about it, but I always just want to make sure we hit it home.
Sure, absolutely. Again, first call should be the sheriff's office. The sheriff's office is the highest law enforcement in any county. A lot of people think that's state police. No, it's not. It's county sheriff. He's elected by the people, and he's the highest law enforcement officer. So we want to call them. Then after that, we want them to notify us. Again, the sheriff's office is probably going to do that, but if they don't, just in case they don't, call us, let us know. So we'll go to that sheriff's office and say, hey, here we are. Do you need any help on this or this and that? Oftentimes they're grateful for us coming through. So you absolutely take it, So we want to do that. Especially the sheriff's office gets there, the sooner the better, because let's say your tractor's stolen. So we want that either the VIN number, PIN number, we want that entered into the national database. That way, every law enforcement in the country is looking for that item now. If it gets pulled over and they run that number, it's going to come back. So you got the whole country looking for that one piece of equipment. So, but the sooner the better. Again, it may be a day, it may be 2 days before my guys can clear up a schedule to get to you. So get the sheriff's office involved, get that entered into the NCIC and get it out there. So, and the last thing I want to say on that point there is if there's evidence there, and we see that all the time, that there'll be a can or there'll be a bag or there'll be whatever, leave it alone. don't touch it, because if you touch it, then it's contaminated, it's no good. Let that sheriff's office or us process that thing. Maybe tracks. We can take casts of those tire prints to give them information. So you want to leave the crime scene alone as much as possible. So report it, and then try to leave what's there alone.
Yet along those lines also, I think a lot of things, or people don't necessarily think about, is making sure you have an inventory of what you have, with VIN numbers, with photo, whatever it may be, because a lot of times we just buy a piece of equipment and we never think about it, writing it down.
When I owned cattle, I had a small enough operation that if something was missing, I knew it was missing, okay? But we got some large farms out there, and they don't count the cattle every day. And it's hard for us when we go out there and they think, I think I got something missing. Well, what are they? Well, they're mixed breed. Well,
they're a black cow.
They're a black cow. It's hard for us to do anything with that. So, if we're not a branding state, but a brand is great. A brand is great. That I can track that brand. So those are the kind of things that I wish that the farmers and ranchers would take seriously. But count the number of cows you got, what type they are. That way, if you do know something's missing, we'll know what it is. Because when we go to the sale barn looking for that certain cow, it's hard to do when you say, well, I'm not really sure it's a mixed breed. That don't give us a lot of information, and so it's run up against a brick wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, so finally, what message would you like to share with Arkansas farmers and ranchers about law enforcement support your department provides, and any final thoughts you have on how your team is here to help?
So the farmers and ranchers work hard from sun up to sundown to produce stuff for us, right? I mean, the staples of our food supply come from them, so they work hard, and with that being said, they deserve law enforcement's attention. And that's what we're specifically, Secretary Ward created us specifically for that, to give those people the attention he thought it deserved. So that's what we're here for. We're specifically for them. And another thing I want to touch on my agents, I talked about them and hard workers they are, but what I also want the ranchers to know out there is, when I hire someone, I don't just look at their police background. Every one of my guys has an agriculture background of some kind, and I do that for a reason. Because when you call and say my tractor's missing or my cows are missing, and you call that agent, I want it to be just as important to him as it you, because he knows that's your livelihood, because he's lived that life. And so when I hire somebody, that's what I look for. I'm not looking at how many years experience they got. Now, I will say my guys have probably we got one of the hardest offices to get in, because we have to have some experience. We're not patrolmen. We don't hire basic patrolmen. You got to have at least 3 years of investigative service before you can even go to work for me, because we're investigators. So with that being said, they're going to be investigators with that agriculture background. That's who we're going to hire. That's who we're looking for.
Yeah, they understand and can see and relate to the people that they're working with, which I think it makes a very big difference, for sure. We're really grateful for it. I mean, I know we've been working together since 2018,
that's
seems
right.
like. And so, but I've seen the growth. I've seen the focus and the determination that your group of agents has, and the work that y'all are doing. And I've just seen, no matter what, the willingness to serve and the willingness to fight for producers. And I think that is a big win for the state of Arkansas, and one that people need to know about. We need to share this success story of the restitution that we've been able to receive for farmers, but also just the work that's being done. Even though sometimes you don't win them all.
No,
you don't win them all, but we at least have someone and some dedicated agency here fighting for us, and that's a big step in the state. We're really grateful for Secretary Ward's guidance of creating y'all, but then for y'all's everyday boots on the ground, being willingness to go out and fight for cattle producers and for agriculturalists all across the state.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that, and again, we appreciate the platform you give us, because y'all been a big supporter since we started, and we do appreciate that, and don't go unnoticed.
Yep. No, we're happy to do it. And as Billy mentioned, he's been going to a lot of county meetings. And so if you are interested, we're going to put the hotline number under in the show notes or in the description for this as well. So that way we can make sure, along with their link, so you can go online and also request or submit a claim, an issue to the department as well. And so we'll put both of those here, but you're also able to reach out to him and invite one of your law enforcement agents or invite Billy to come in and speak and talk about some of these things with your county as well. Or if you have an issue, you're able to reach out to them and connect with it. We'll make sure we include those links in the description, so we make it as easy as possible for y'all to connect with this resource that we have in the state. So anything else? Anything you want to wrap up? You want to?
No, again, I thank y'all for having me, and hopefully it turns out good.
Yeah, we're excited about it. We know we've been having more and more calls about cattle theft. I had a guy send me a message on Facebook the other day about he thought somebody was baiting his cattle, and so I put him in contact with the department's law enforcement, and he was paying attention. He's like, hey, I think something's wrong here. And so we know that with cattle prices the way they are, people are trying to take advantage of it, and so make sure you are protecting yourself, just like Chief Black mentioned, and following those tips of being able to keep an eye on your equipment, on your cattle, because we do know that there's issues across this state that they can work to solve once they happen, but ideally we'd be able to prevent them and not have those issues at all. And so we really appreciate it, appreciate you taking the time, and appreciate the work you and your guys have done over the last 8 years now, so almost, and so really grateful for the leadership that you've been able to provide and work you've done for producers.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right, and last but not least, we would be remiss if we did not talk about the hat that we have hanging here. Normally it's a hat from our very own Mr. Randy Black, but this week, because of our special guest, we have a special hat. We have Billy Black's, no relation, hat hanging behind us. And so we've talked a lot about Billy's tie to agriculture and his love and support of agriculture, but this is also our ability, or his ability, to showcase his hat that's hanging behind us here. If you're watching online, you can see it. We're really somebody pointed out that we didn't talk about the hat last week, and so we are working to make sure we incorporate the hat. We started it, we're going to continue it, and so just wanted to highlight that and point it out. So anything special about this hat?
Nope, it's just
It's
just my hat. I didn't want Randy's up there.
Yeah, you didn't, well, that's fine. We didn't want Randy's up there either.
But I will say, like, all y'all's team, like, if y'all come to an event, like, y'all are all have the same hat, same shirt, same ties, like,
That's right.
sharp looking group.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
I'm sure they love being able to dress up in their blazers and their white button-downs and
They
their
do.
ties.
We don't do it very often, but on special occasions, we'll put a tie on.
Because I know y'all came to our board meeting in December, and everybody's like, dang, they came up and they showed out, and they're like,
Yeah, they're like, who are these
they
people in
mean
the
business.
suits? I was like, yeah, they're fancy.
So.
And so, yeah, we wanted to make sure we touched base on that and shared about the hat this week. So thank y'all for tuning in. We appreciate it.
Thank y'all. This is the Arkansas Cattle Business Podcast, your trusted source for all things cattle in the natural state.